Okay, chapter 4 is kind of it's a pretty short chapter today, and then after today you'll have everything for the 4 PowerPoints for the first exam. What I'm probably going to do is, if you look on your syllabus, it shows Ken Smith, and that is correct, he's coming that day, but then on that day that shows review, we have a guest speaker that day. The guy Bob Bartolomeo that wasn't able to come earlier is going to pop in that day, so I won't be able to do a review, but it's pretty simple. You got the PowerPoints, and what I'll probably do, I'll let you know, but I'm probably going to use Mr. Bartolomeo's presentation for this exam, and I may tell you to take your notes on Mr. Smith, and I may pop into the second exam because I probably need to get them spread out, but I'll let you know on that. Okay, so this is, I told you, this is in 1997, after I opened, I guess I opened in 94, then in 97 at the Hardee's National Convention, they recognized 5 franchisees for outstanding performance. I think one was on training, one was on operations, commitment to service or something. Anyway, mine was on community involvement. So this is, they had sent a camera crew down, and it's a big deal when people in the town of 6,000, when you got a camera crew down there following somebody around for 2 days. So no laughing.
When you come to a small town, probably the best marketing tool you have is word of mouth, or I guess if you don't run a good restaurant, it could be your worst marketing tool. I would say 98% of my business comes from local people. So you have got to cater to that market and make sure that they're taken care of. To be as good as we can be, you have to be involved in the community. You have to be out in front of the people, and you have to give back to them.
In the years that I've been mayor, which I'm on my 10th year now, I think it's been one of the top additions to our community.
I think those people needed to know that we were not going to be outsiders coming in here, taking the local people's money and not doing anything in return for it.
Well, he's been very involved with the Bradley County Industrial Development Commission, which is our primary organization for recruiting jobs and new industry.
More jobs means more money, more disposable income to spend at my restaurant. So that to me was a gift. And look at somebody and say, hi, how you doing?
He started working with our secondary students out here because when he got ready to hire for Hardee's, he realized that there was a problem with our employability skills in this area. They're trying to help the community be better.
In a town this size, there's some definite loyalty when you're involved in the community. And sure enough, we've been here about 6 months, and here comes the McDonald's. And for about the first 30 days, people tried it, and it hit pretty hard. But back in September, we were 10% above sales in September the year before. If you can cultivate it to the point that 90% of the time that you get their business, then I think you've won the battle. And that, I think, is from our involvement in the community and our involvement with the people.
I don't know how this community would do without this place. I don't know how we can do it.
So it's a two-way street. If you come in and contribute back and give back to the community, and especially in this small town, then they're going to take care of you. You're one of their own. There you go. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. What do you think? All right. But one thing, what else did you pick up anything on that? You like that? I mean, it was, that was, to me, the number one thing we did. And one of the things I would tell you is, when you guys decide what business you want to do, be the customer. Meaning, if I'm going to, try to put yourself in the customer's mind and figure out what they expect. And I think that was the key. As a customer of fast food, my expectation was I wanted it fast. So when I decided to own that business, that was I wanted to do what I thought I would want as a customer. And we absolutely, that single thing, putting that door there and running those orders out, 3 cars leaving at the same time. I mean, you guys ever experienced anything like that? It's not hard. It's very simple to do. You've got an order screen, and it's wired. You have sound in your back, so when people order from the drive-thru, if it's a special order, they can start on it immediately. And that's the whole key, too. Just as soon as that order was made, if it's, Big Mac, no cheese or whatever, boom, we can start on it immediately and have it ready by the time they got around there. So, also, what do you see? You see my people? Are they smiling? Yeah. And that was not just for the camera. It was not optional at my place. I sent a young lady home one day who was just not being nice to customers. Actually, I fired her. And that's one thing I will tell you too, is management, people will respond to the minimum standard that you set. So if you have a policy that you're going to be nice to customers and you enforce that, guess what everybody's going to do? They're going to be nice to customers. And that's why I see all these businesses, and it just shocks me at the level how poorly, and I don't blame it on the employees, I blame it on management for either tolerating that or not getting better employees. So, and one of the things that they will tell you, if you guys are in any kind of customer service business, and there's a technical aspect, should you hire a technical person or a customer service person? Customer service. They say you can train somebody, the technical part of it. Some people just don't belong in customer service. And it's hard to change somebody's personality if they're not comfortable or don't like being around people. So just, and I don't know if also you noticed the McDonald's, a little bit of pan shot over there, 1 or 2 cars in their parking lot. That was like normal. I mean, it was rare. I can remember some Saturday mornings looking over there, and they could have striped their parking lot. No business at all, and we were so busy, it was, we just barely had time to breathe. So we had, good people, good management, and good service. And those 3 things were pretty much the key. But that community involvement also, I think, was very key, too. We had a very, very loyal group of people, and you heard me say McDonald's for 30 days. People tried it, but then after that, our sales from September, the first year to September the 2nd, we were up, and that was 2 months after they opened. So, no, it was a franchise. But the franchisee, no, he lived in the town that, so he was in Monticello. I was in Warren, so when he came and put a McDonald's across from me, or McDonald's did, I went to his town in Monticello and also put one, and I guarantee you I did more business in Monticello than he did in Warren. He had been the McDonald's guy in the area for a long time, had made a bunch of money, and he just was not hungry anymore. And I think, I don't know if I told you, I stood in line, when I was looking at where I was going to put my second restaurant, my manager and I went to his McDonald's and sat in there one morning at breakfast, and I watched the guy stand at the counter for 19 minutes. We timed it to get a breakfast platter. And he was in the restaurant, like around the side, so he couldn't see what was going on. My restaurant had open seating such that if I was out there trying to grab a bite or something and we got backed up, boom. And I expected my people to do that too. You put your stuff down, you go back in and you start working. And so I knew we were going to do well. So he just, and that's one of the things, and I think it's a true statement. Success can be bad. How can success be bad? Yeah, you get too comfortable. You get complacent. And this guy he wasn't hungry. And that's me coming in, and once again, I throw the debt into the mix. I was very, very hungry and worked it. I outworked the guy, plain and simple. He had a better brand. If I'd have had the McDonald's and he had the Hardee's, I would have closed the Hardee's down. But he did not work it. So, and that's, once again, the advantage of the small town. We were more like a local place, but I had the advantage of the economies of scale for purchasing, the food system and everything. I couldn't have done it on my own, not the startup part of it. Okay, so that kind of ties into what concepts can you actually franchise. So every type of concept is not necessarily right for franchising. So you've got to have 3 factors that make it appropriate. You've got to have a valuable system to sell, and it's got to be based on a proven system. You've got to have something that's transferable. You've got to be able to put it into a set of rules, be able to put in a manual. If you can't do that step 2, people can probably do it on their own. And we talked about the gym, and I like that, and there's a couple reasons. How hard is it to run a gym? I mean, is there a big management? Is there, you got to have some basic accounting skills. You get set up, some basic, if you're going to do month-to-month or do yearly, or how you're going to do your sales and contracts. But that's pretty simple. And so, all right, large pool of potential franchisees. There's enough potential buyers in the concept to make it worthwhile to invest in the upfront cost of setting up a franchise. Is it something that enough people are going to buy that I'm going to get my investment back, my $500,000 to $600,000, that it's going to take me to put together the franchise disclosure document and hire an attorney and get everything in writing. All right, so valuable system sell. You got to have a product or service that customers want. It's got to be a better operation for delivering the product than the potential franchisees could develop on their own. And what you want to do, you want to be able to reduce their learning curve. And one of the hot franchise, and there's different names, but have you guys heard the home health franchises advertising now? The one I hear in Tallahassee is called...
Are you talking about where they bring you, like, nurses and stuff?
Right, yeah. Visiting Angels is one that I've heard, and if you go online and look, there's one called Granny's Nanny. And think about that business. Is there, I mean, and I guess at some point, if you have a name and there's value, but what would be required? Do you think that's something you could learn on your own, or do you think that would be worth paying somebody for that information? Yeah, I don't think it would be that complicated. So, and the value, what's the value of that concept right now?
My grandfather's in a home right now.
That's exactly it. You right now, my mom's in the same situation. She's in a place and it's about $3,300 a month to live in some kind of home. You can rent an apartment for $1,000 and then spend that other money having people come in, check on them, do the services, and also, once again, I don't know that that's something that, you know, I guess there's some value to the franchise if somebody's already done it, but I also think that's something that you could probably learn very quickly. It's not something like a restaurant business when you think about setting up a menu and food costs and everything, equipment and all that. So kind of keep that in mind. All right, so learning curve. Once again, having that franchise system, if the system's in place, then it definitely shortens your learning curve. You've got to develop standards and procedures, and then they mentioned Blimpies 13 years before franchising. Firehouse was probably about 10, and once again, a lot of value in getting a system set up and owning company stores before you start the franchise part of it. All right, so look at Blimpies, and franchise fee of $18,000. Total investment, $114 to $341. Royalty, 6%, which is fairly standard. 15-year agreement with 2 10-year options. 4% of gross sales for advertising. And look at the next one. You do not receive a protected territory. Guys, that's a red flag. You got to be careful about that because that means they can put another one. And you would think, common sense-wise, somebody wouldn't come and put one very close to you. Look at Subway. They've blown common sense out of the window. Why people would want to open another one where there's 3 in the area, but they're all over the place. And so, look at this, and this is not unusual too. If you're going to do franchise, you're going to have to invest some time before they're going to let you take off. And so, first thing that you have to do, 80 hours of hands-on experience in a restaurant. Okay, and if you're working a job, if you don't have the money to quit, then you're going to have to do that part-time. I had to spend 40 hours in a Hardee's, so I was working it. My job during the day, getting off work and going to a Hardee's outside of Montgomery at night working so I could meet my 40-hour requirement. Why do they make you do that? Yeah, they want you to be absolutely sure that that's something that you're going to be comfortable doing and something that you think you can be good at.
Did Hardee's make me an owner-operator?
What do you mean by owner-operator?
Like, now with McDonald's, they let investment groups and stuff like that where you don't have to be the guy in there day in, day out. So I didn't know if Hardee's gave you the option or if they were like Chick-fil-A and stuff like that where they force you to be the option.
You know, I don't know if they did or not. I was not interested in that option. Personally, if I'm going to invest that much money in something, and I wanted to be involved in it. And that's why even if you guys as a group of investors, I would have somebody who's got an ownership stake involved in the day-to-day operation. What's the danger if you don't? You're going to lose control unless you're sure you've got a very, very good manager. And that's what happened to me. My third restaurant, when I moved back here, I had a manager and I was 600 miles away. That was like me being an investor in that place, and he ended up running it into the ground. So got to be careful. But to me, and so McDonald's, you say, is now allowing.
They've always allowed it. It's just like people like and like Panera, I just didn't know if Hardee's gave you that option, or if you.
You know, I never explored it because I was not interested in it. So, and I know Firehouse, a group of people can do it. One of the the principals has to be involved in the day-to-day operation.
Like Casper family, like they don't run them at all. Like they have a company that runs it.
But I guarantee you they're looking over the numbers and doing that stuff. But once again, when you get big like that, it takes away, in my opinion, what the whole value of the franchise is, and that's having an owner in the store. If you've got 20 stores, you're a company. Oh, I know. There's some. The guy that, Hardee's, the Bowling Noah got 350. The guy, Jerry Richardson, that owns the Carolina Panthers, he had 500. Yeah. That's how he made his money.
Now he owns a sports franchise?
Yeah. Traded up. All right, so then practical experience is followed by 80 hours of classroom training at a Glenby University in Atlanta. Think about that time commitment, and this is before you even get to go through the process. And then the class has been completed. You've got to spend an additional 40 hours in a Glenby restaurant to gain more hands-on experience. So I had to do 40 hours at working at a Hardee's. Then at that point, I was able to get an interview, and I had to meet the requirements for money, which is $800,000 net worth, $300,000 liquid. And so then I was able to talk to them. At the point they approved me, I had to do an additional 30 hours at a company training facility, and then I was allowed to open up. So I had 70 hours invested, and it'll be interesting, I know, when several franchisees I have coming in to find out what level of training is required of them before they let you go. And I know going through the process with Chick-fil-A, basically I was going to have to quit my job, and it was going to be about a 5-month deal before you could get started with Chick-fil-A, between all what you had to learn, the book learning and training and everything pre-opening. Some of them do, some of them don't. I was talking to somebody, Firehouse the other day. Firehouse requires people to work. They don't pay them. I actually did get paid minimum wage while I was working in Montgomery, so that may be on the individual franchise. So I think it not necessarily have to, but you know what? I was working a full-time job. It wasn't that minimum wage for 40 hours. It wasn't that big a deal.
Was that before sign? Did all that menu?
The 40 hours was before they would even sit down and talk to me. Okay. They want to make sure when you come to that table, you know what you're getting into. And that's the importance of the selection process for them.
And then the actual company learned that after you signed?
That was after I committed. Then I started doing the formal training. The working part was just, and you know what, I felt bad kind of for the store. I mean, I'm not trained, and I'm only going to be there for 40 hours. There's really not a whole lot I can do that's very, very productive at the time. I was probably in the way more than just doing sodas and maybe running stuff out, or I probably could cashier or something, but honestly, I don't remember. That was a few burgers ago. What did I do before Hardee's?
Building an $800,000 net.
Well, then you've missed part of I already addressed this. I had the $300,000 liquid. I worked for Roadway Express, a Fortune 500 company, just as a manager. And so, but I was very good about saving and investing. And also, my father had started a bank, and I bought some stock in his bank, and it did really, really well. And we sold it to a publicly traded company. So I made quite a bit of money doing that. But I did not have the $800,000 requirement. I was age 35 when I started this deal. So my parents had to sign on the license agreement with me, and some of the companies won't even let you do that. I think one of the things we went over said one of the individuals on their own has to meet that financial requirement. Hardee's allowed, with my parents signing, since my parents' net worth and mine together met the $800,000, they allowed my parents to sign on the license agreement. So I was really only part owner in the place. But when I opened the second one, because of the success we had in the first one, they did not make my parents be a party to the second one. And a year after that, they allowed me to take my parents' name off the first one. Okay. Some companies won't do that. I think there was one of them that said that it was either in the slides we were talking about that said one of the principals has to meet it on their own. You can't get 3 people together to meet the net worth requirement. So each individual franchise might have a different standard. All right, so that's all your pre-opening. Okay, so you've got to have a valuable system to sell. You've got to have possession of a proprietary product or process. And you guys know Dippin' Dots, right? The franchise fee is $12,500. Total investment $70,000 to $214,000. But is that something you guys would want to do? Why not? I mean, it's a cool product.
Such a novelty thing, though.
Where's the out?
Do you even see them? The only one I know of, there's one in Destin, like in the old Main Street in Destin that I've seen. I think that's still down there. But are there still? What's that? Okay. And so once again, my guess is if you Google that, there's probably not a lot of franchisees in Dippin' Dots. And now it's very cheap to get in, but why do you think it's cheap to get in? How much money can you make selling Dippin' Dots? Not a lot. So is that something that, franchise? Okay, you got to have brand name that attracts customers. Once again, the value of your brand name, the more value to it, the more familiar your brand name is, the more you can charge for your franchise. Margins are high enough that franchisees make good profits after royalties are paid. So you got to be able to, I have to be profitable enough to be able to pay that 4%, in my case 6%, in Firehouse Subs' case. You have to be profitable enough to be able to stomach paying that franchise or every month part of your revenue. So one of the things that they mentioned, it's not on the slide, but the grocery business. And I don't know if there are any franchises in the grocery business. Would you know why? Yeah, they're horrible. They're like 1% to 2%. So they make it on volume because people have to eat. So they do very, very high sales and very, very low profit margins. So if you were to franchise a grocery store, what do you pay the royalties on? Sales. Okay, so your royalty on that grocery store would be astronomical, and yet your margins are very, very thin. So that's good reason probably why grocery stores don't franchise. Plus, think about your inventory. How much money would you be carrying in inventory? Yeah, your startup cost on that would be absolutely astronomical. So once again, some businesses just don't fit. Okay, so rely on company ownership. If your concept's no better than what people can do on their own, and use company ownership if you've not had a proven concept and operating it for a while. People aren't going to buy something that doesn't have a track record. All right, so transferable. It's got to be replicable, meaning I got to be able to take it to different locations. Can codify procedures, meaning I got to be able to put it in writing, come up with a manual, step-by-step procedures, etc. And then you've got to be able to teach people with little experience to operate a business in a short period of time. I had no food experience at all, but how hard? Any of you guys work in food? I'm sure a lot of you do. How hard is it? What's the hardest thing? Being nice to people. What about as far as the actual internal running of the place? Prep sucks. Well, isn't it just kind of managing your people? That's the hard part to me in that business is you have a lot of employees.
Yeah, cooks are super hard to manage, like chefs and stuff. They want to do their own thing. The owner disagrees a lot of the time. My parents are in the restaurant. And my dad always disagrees with the chef, usually with his recipes and stuff. I go with,
So the chef's probably been trained and
interest, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But it's not a hard business. You take the order, you cook the food, you take it out to the people. That's not hard. You can learn that in a short period of time. You don't see franchises in heating and air, plumbing, wine. Yeah. I mean, how long would it, if you were going to buy a heating and air franchise, where are you going to find somebody? You're going to have to go to school unless you have it now. There is something, and we'll get to it later, where it's conversion franchising, where you take people who already are running a business and you put them together in a franchise. And I know one of the things that's done that is the real estate business. You think about it, does a realtor, what's the advantage of buying a real estate franchise?
Like Keller.
Keller Williams is exactly.
I thought they cover a lot of your costs. Like I know my girlfriend's mom, they pay her advertising. They guarantee her so much money. Like they help her out. So she says that's why she chose to go with them. Do her advertising.
But she's going to be paying them though for you're going to be paying them a royalty to use that name each month. So I don't know that the company's actually paying for that. But once again, if you're successful, I know a group here that I've dealt with before. and they've been approached a couple times, and they just say, we don't need it. We're very successful on our own. Why do we need to pay for that name? The advantage would be there are some companies, large companies, that when they move will have a contract with somebody because they have multiple locations. So that might be an advantage. But the real estate business is one that it's not necessarily necessary to have a franchise.
Is that kind of like AAA does? AAA and stuff like house job.
But are they a franchise or are they company owned and they just outsource the jobs? I would think they're company owned. I don't think AAA is a franchise. I'm pretty sure they're company owned.
So with these real estate places, what do you need? They all come together, different places.
You just have a Prudential here. You have one in Pensacola. You have one in Miami. You have the same name, but you have independent people operating each of those locations. So, but those people, to get that Prudential name, are paying Prudential Corporation a percentage of their sales to be able to carry that name. And the big thing in that would be referrals. If you're in Pensacola and you do Prudential, then that person would call, if you're moving to Miami, call the Prudential agent down there and go, oh, go see so-and-so when you get to Miami. Because if you go, you don't know anybody. So it can, I guess there are some advantages. The group I know chose not to do it. They just said, we do well enough on our own. We don't need to pay somebody else.
Back on top of like mechanic franchises, I knew someone that owned a Roto-Rooter, and they are franchised.
Yeah.
But it wasn't very successful.
It wasn't?
Yeah. He wasn't very hands-on with it. He kind of just owned it as like a tax break.
Well, one of the things, and I will say this throughout, I'm just not a big fan of owning something that I'm not going to be involved in. I just think that is very, very dangerous unless you know that you've got good health. And to get good health, what are you going to have to do? You have to pay a lot of money. You can get good health. It's just going to cost you a lot of money. And it can be worth it, but then that's going to cut down your margin that you're going to make out of it. And then is it worth my initial investment if I'm going to have to pay somebody? If I was going to have to, the business I went in, I paid my managers, and this is a small town, and many years ago. But my manager was making about $30,000, and in that town, that was a decent wage because I told you I bought a house for $47,000. But if I were going to put that and just outsource all my management, I would have been having to pay $50,000, probably $60,000 to get somebody really good, and then that would have way cut into my margins that I would have been able to pay off my debt with. So I guess if you have a lot of money and can pay cash for something or not go into big debt to do it, maybe I would be more comfortable doing that. But if I'm going to go into debt, I'm going to want to try to maximize my margins to get out of debt, and you do that by being hands-on. And once again, remember, franchise people pay their employees less than company people do. All right, so got to be able to teach people. It's got to be a simple concept. It's got to be replicable. The same product or service and the same experience can be offered in more than one location. And so, are there unique inputs and a unique culture? And once again, a franchisee, though, can shape that business based on that culture. Because big city owning stuff is different than small town, but that franchisee is going to be better to manage and actually going to work it harder kind of to adapt to your local environment. All right, so it's got to be transferable concept. It's got to be codified. Can it be captured in an operating manual? That needs to happen. You've got to be able to put stuff in writing, and that's your protection, not only for if you're the franchisor, it says the franchisee, you will do these things, but it's your protection as the franchisee also, because the franchisor is saying, here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to give you area protection. We're going to give you service, etc. And assess the franchise performance relative to what's codified, such as quality standards, and those are going to be measurable, and that's your whole audit process where you're going to have that person come around and check the store all the time to make sure that they are meeting the quality standards that you've established in your manuals. And it's required by regulators, and that's for the FDD. All right, so company ownership, rather than franchising, if you can't replicate your prototype store elsewhere. Company ownership of outlets rather than franchising. If you cannot write down your operating rules and use company ownership rather than franchising, if you can't train people with little expertise to operate your business in a short period of time. Brandon or Aaron, do you remember the lady that talked, that had that one store? Yeah. Do you think that she could franchise that? Why not?
Because she doesn't even know what she's doing with that one.
But, I mean, conceptually, is it something...
Conceptually, yeah, but she hurt herself.
Okay, but one of the things, and we had a guest speaker come in, and this is not meaning to be critical, and I think she would tell you this, but she was so hands-on that she wanted to do everything in the place, and how does that translate to another location? You can't do that. It's got to be something that, and I guess, you know, you could probably train maybe other people to do it, but it just seemed like she was so hands-on that she would be unwilling to even let somebody else have that name because she was afraid it's going to ruin the brand. And that was, I don't know, it was different. I guess a different approach. And I mean, I don't know how successful she is or she's making money or not, but she really seems to love what she's doing. But you know what? I want to make money. We can love stuff later. And what do you, I was just mentioning, if you make money, you can love a lot of things, right? Life's a lot easier. One of you guys had asked about me going into the food business. I never looked and go, boy, I just love the food business. I just found something I thought I could make money in, and then I became passionate about it. So one of the things that they tell you guys to be successful, what do they tell you to do? Got to find something you love. What's wrong with doing something and then loving what you do?
More effort into it.
Well, I had committed to do it, so why be miserable? I mean, the time I was there, I worked it. I wouldn't do it again. But the time I did it, well, look at me. Skinny, worked to death. You can tell I was walking literally probably 14, 15 hours a day in that store, and very quickly. So, I wouldn't say I had a passion for it before I started it. But once I got involved in it, then I developed a passion for it because it was my life. It was my livelihood. And the success or failure of me long term depended on making that work. And one of the things, too, I will tell you this, one of the things that I missed opening my own business, you ever thought about now that you have people working for you that you're responsible for their livelihood?
Have you ever thought of that?
I never thought of it. Have you?
I would. If I had my own business, if I fired them, then what do they?
Well, or what happens if you mismanage the business and it goes out? They're out too. And that is, but going into that, I never realized the commitment I would have to my employees to try to make that work and to try to be able to keep raising them as I reduce my debt, to be able to pass along some of that to reward the people that stayed with you for a long time. And my turnover, anybody know what the turnover rate in the fast food business is? Oh, no. No, that was my margin. Turnover rate, meaning how many employees for one job do you have in a year's time? It's about 300%. Yeah. So you have, well, think about it. You guys go to places, you see the same people in there?
When I was working, fired every week I came in with new people. I was like, who are you? And I thought I was fired because I came in every room.
And my turnover rate at my store was less than 50%, and you got to figure I lost some people each year because I had high school kids graduate that left.
Of course, when looking at the video, it didn't really seem. It seemed like most of your employees were like in their 30s or 40s. So that being in a small town.
That was just pretty much in the day because kids are in school, and that was like at a lunch. So you had to have people who are full-time people. There was not a college where I was at, so there just was not a market for 18 to 25 who weren't in school. So, but now if you came at night, you would see a manager in there and a bunch of kids. Kids got out of school at 3, and that's what. Yeah. So I was probably made up of. But you got to be able, breakfast and lunch. Kids aren't available. So you've got to have enough full-time older people who can work. Now, probably more so in a small town just because there were so few jobs. And once again, I was very fortunate to get a lot of good people. But the other part of that success is you've got to treat them right. And that's why I had quite a few people that from the day I started till the day I sold were still with me. And I thought that was pretty amazing. And out of my, here's the other. Let me give you an HR tip. If you're going to hire a bunch of people, and especially if they're going to be kids, find a teacher at the local high school. No, to be my HR screener. My next door neighbor was a math teacher at the high school. So I took her my stack of applications, and she went, you want this one. Good kid, good parents. This one, don't hire them. I don't care. They're going to be really nice. You're going to really fall in love with them. Don't hire them. And she was spot on. 6 of the first 12, when I opened in June, so the next year, Warren High School had 12 honor graduates. 6 of them were employees of Hardee's. And she did a wonderful job of steering me to the right people.
So that's only kind of really small town. Okay?
Not really. If I had got so Tallahassee, that's not a small town, right? Not really. It's medium.
Yeah, a lot bigger.
Okay, but still, if I were going to like when Chick-fil-A opened up in Bradfordville, probably a majority of those kids would go to Childs High School. So I would have found somebody at Childs High School and done the same thing, gone through the selection process. There's somebody that knows, and even in a big town, people aren't going to drive 20 miles to work at a fast food place. Maybe, but for the most part, you're probably going to get a lot of local people in the area, and you can still use that screening. But that was key to me, to get good kids in there, because if you don't, and once again, interviewing is not a direct science, and there's a lot of, I made a lot of mistakes, but one of the things I would tell you guys, you need to be a good interviewer. You need to learn how to sell yourself in that interview, but does that mean you're necessarily going to be a good employee? Not at all. But if you don't get your foot in the door, you don't get the opportunity. So if you can't interview, if you're a bad interviewer, you may be a good employee, but you're not going to get an opportunity. So I would rather be a good interviewer and at least get my foot in the door to have a chance. But screen your people well. And now, especially depending on what business you guys go into, it may be worth spending some dollars to do background checks. If you're in something where people have access to a lot of money, spend some money to do background tests. Depending on what business, you may want to do some of those personality assessments, because there's all kinds of tools out there now that are much more accurate than just interviewing somebody. Interviewing is the worst form of hiring that there is, just because what do you know about that person? Yeah, and well, here's another thing. I never looked at letters of reference.
Right, they didn't tell you all the things I want to do.
Well, are you guys going to get somebody to write you a letter that's going to say something bad about you? So why would I even look at it? I know if you bring me a letter of reference, somebody's going to say something good about you. So there's really no value to that. For me, I had to get letters of reference. And job, you have to get letters of reference. It's a waste of time and paper. Okay, what about even contacting the former employer? Well, I mean, you can. There's some things you can probably learn, but, and hopefully Dr. Blass will cover it when he does the HR section in here. Unfortunately, there's only a few questions you're allowed to ask. You know that, right? Legally, you can't ask age, religion, are you planning on having kids soon? You just can't ask those questions. So, you think ever that an employer or former employer, or how about current employer, would tell you something good about somebody that wasn't good? Well, you've got to be careful, but if you say something good about somebody, you're probably not going to get sued by that employee. But if I've got a bad employee, would it be in my best interest to tell somebody who's interviewing with something good about? Yeah, because they're going to hire them. So you've got to question people's motivation at times, too. But yeah, you've got to be careful as an employer what you can say, and that's why HR to you guys, as small business owners, you better understand it, because it can get you in a lot of trouble if you don't obey the law with HR. All right, so Lord, you got to have enough people out there willing to buy your concept. So the pool can be larger if you minimize your requirements for education. The lower the financial investment, the more people that are applicable, and if it's something that doesn't require industry-specific knowledge. Think about the hotel business. That's huge. How hard is a hotel to run? Not at all. They get you a reservation system. You have a desk clerk. You've got housekeepers, and that's pretty much it. Maybe a little bit of maintenance, and it's very simple. Now, the one that the hotel business gets you on is that middle one. It's a large financial investment to do a hotel. And industry-specific knowledge, once again, that's not something that's going to be a deal breaker, because you can learn that in a very, very short period of time. It's common sense. But what about education? if you guys were doing a franchise, how much value would you put on somebody having a degree or not?
Like an analyst degree?
Yeah, if you guys had this concept that you're doing, and this guy walks in the door, he's 28 years old, he attended community college for 2 years, got his AA, dropped out, and been working. Would that knock him out of contention for you? But does that mean he's not qualified?
No, he's got work experience. That's worth more than a degree sometimes, depending what he was working at previously.
It depends. And there's no right answer to that. But if you guys now, and let me kind of what you said, you guys now, the problem that your age group is having in the job market is there's a lot of people my age that have been laid off, let go from companies, and that's who you guys are competing against. So you think an employer is going to hire a 22-year-old kid that's coming out of college with no experience or a 45-year-old person who's worked for 20-something years. So I would say education, but the same thing. Are you guys, and you guys, it's a little different now, especially with this entrepreneurship program, because we're trying to teach you like real life business skills. But before the entrepreneurship program, and you got a business degree, did that teach you how to run a business? No, you know some basic marketing concepts. You know some, a little bit. You had 2 accounting classes, but do you know enough to go in and actually do that business? Well, how do you learn that? You got to do it. So, but if you use education as a disqualifier, then what does that do? It shrinks your pool. And I'm not saying that it does or doesn't. I don't know that college. I think I still could have been successful in the restaurant business with my experience working at Roadway. But the problem is, in some cases, you're not going to get that opportunity in the first place if you don't have that degree. And it's kind of that. And the other thing now is a lot of jobs are saying, well, we want somebody with experience. Well, how do you guys get experience if somebody doesn't give you an opportunity the first time with no experience? So that's the kind of the dilemma you guys are in now. But if you can reduce your requirement for education, financial investment, industry-specific knowledge, you increase your pool.
Right, as long as they're successful. Matters.
Yeah, or they can be successful. But once again, how do you know that? But guys, are there people that graduate from college that would flame out? Absolutely. Just because you complete college, does that mean you would be successful in doing that? It's not. Well, yeah, it's not tangible. There's a lot of unknowns.
What do you think about work qualification? Somebody having too much?
I don't know that you can have too much education. You need to pursue it to the level that you think you want to be at or that you need to be at. But I don't know that just because somebody came in with a master's degree that I would go, ooh, this person's got a master's degree, so they're going to be more qualified than somebody who didn't. Once again, it depends on the perception and the value of the education. And that's, you guys feel like at your stage coming out, you guys graduate, you're 22 years old, could you run a business, or do you think you would be better served going to work for somebody for a few years and then trying it a few years down the road? Yeah, and I will tell you what the hardest thing would be, management. You learn to manage, you can't teach that in a classroom. You learn to manage by making mistakes and doing it on your own. And you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your success. So that's something that would be the most challenging thing. If you guys own the business and think about it, you're 22, and let's just say your parents have some financial backing, and so they have a McDonald's, so they're going to put you in there at 22 years old. You've got a college degree running that McDonald's. You're going to have problems? Yeah, and the other thing, think about your labor force. There's a lot of them going to be a lot older than you. You think they're going to respect you? You've got a college degree.
I saw a documentary one time where it was the same case, but they actually made their son start at the lowest position and work every position up just to get his.
I have a stepson whose dad used to own a beer distributorship, and there was at one time it looked like he was heading that direction to go to work. That's exactly the advice I gave him. I said, you need to start at the bottom and do every job coming up. There's 2 reasons. One, you want to learn the business from the ground up so that when somebody tells you something, you understand and know what they're talking about. But number 2 is by doing that, the people see that you're not afraid of work. If you come in, and that's the other thing, you guys, how many of your parents have you guys have family businesses? Okay, if there's an opportunity for you to go back in that business, and especially if there's a large labor force of people that are a lot older than you, they're not going to like you. Because all of a sudden you're their boss just by virtue of you having the right last name. And you're talking about mom or dad may have people that have been working for them for 20 years, and then all of a sudden here comes this snot-nosed kid out of college and running the show that doesn't know anything. Start at the bottom, work your way up, you get the respect of your people, and you also get to learn the business from the ground up. I subscribe to that 100%. And you guys know what the success rate of transition of family businesses is? What's that? No. It's about 33%. Yeah. Well, there's so much institutional knowledge that Dad has that either he can't pass on or doesn't pass on. And a lot of it, too, I think, depends on the transition. If you just turn it over, you're doomed for failure. You need to stay there with them if you're going to transition that business. That's not, you just don't want to hand them the keys to the store and go, okay, cool, you're here, I'm retiring. It's not a good plan. All right, so, and we talked a little bit about this. You see the difference in these Carvel and Panera Bread, but how much business do you think a Carvel ice cream can do? Yeah, not a lot. Panera Bread, those places can, probably do $4 or $5 million worth of business. So that's why your cost is going to be. And look at the experience required. Carvel, no, that's a simple concept.
I heard the other day that Krispy Kreme was the most expensive franchise, and I was wondering why that is. Because I was Googling them, and they said it's because they're little factories. I didn't know if you knew anything about that.
I know it was like the darling of Wall Street at one time, and I can't figure that out because how much business do they do after like 9 o'clock in the morning?
They said that's when they go into a factory, but and they produce.
Oh, for like the convenience stores and all that stuff?
It's like you get territory, all those stuff.
Okay. I don't know if it's the most expensive. I know that looks pretty expensive to me. But yeah, so basically what you're saying is they have two different business models. You have the breakfast, the actual restaurant in the morning, but in the afternoon you're actually a producer for Publix and 7-Elevens and all that stuff. So yeah, that's, because think about it. What would you do? How many people eat donuts after 9, 10 o'clock in the morning? And who works for Dunkin' Donuts in here? One of the things that, and I didn't even know until I started doing a little investigating into it, that they do lunch.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but how many people think that when you're thinking about lunch that Dunkin' Donuts pops up on your radar?
I'm not going to lie, that's that. We got like 3 good dead zones. I've been there for like 5 years now. So let's say the first dead zone. Well, on Sundays, our busiest day, because there's a church right across the street.
And that's for lunch?
No, that's just for the morning and their services. Like they get out at like 11.
Oh yeah, coffee. Dunkin's coffee is huge.
They come out after that. So we have a cop that like goes on the light, so we can always tell when they're gonna come. But I'm gonna say we have a dead zone is like 11 to 3, and then like from I'm gonna say like kids get out of school and the teachers come with like gift cards and shit. They come out like around 3. But then I'm gonna say we have like a break from 5 until like 8:30. For some reason, like an hour and a half before closing, we always get people coming in. I don't know why.
But you understand what I'm saying? Dunkin', the mindset is breakfast donuts.
Yeah.
So they, and I don't think they've done a very good job in actually promoting and selling and advertising the fact that, yeah, we're a lunch product also. And that's because I think people's perception, same thing with Hardee's did chicken, and I put it in. I personally think it's better than KFC's, the actual chicken product. I don't know if you guys have ever eaten Hardee's chicken. It was really, really good. But people in their mind, when they thought chicken, what do they think of? KFC.
Popeyes.
Yeah, Popeyes. And I didn't have Popeyes in a small town, but you just don't think about that. When they thought of Hardee's, they thought about sandwiches. So you got to be careful about perception also. All right, so rely on company ownership. Valid if a large portion of the population lacks the money or skills to exploit the concept. And there's a lot of these franchises are very, very expensive. You guys know Pods? That he decided to franchise that's over $1 million to get set up, because you got to have the warehouse space you can rent, but you got to have truck, forklift, the plastic units, etc. That is a very, very expensive franchise, so that's going to knock a lot of people out. I mean, you would almost have to spend that kind of money. And if you went through the process with them, they would show you, I'm sure, what your return's going to be. Are you going to invest $1 million if you can't make a decent return on that? You're not going to do it. And once again, and you're going to pay franchise, you're going to pay advertising fee, etc. So it's got to be lucrative enough that you're willing to invest that money.
I know. Did you say something about how like at your time in Hardee's, did they ever do like promotional items for like certain, like on a national level?
Yeah.
That they did? Because the one thing I've noticed at Dunkin' Donuts is they do that sometimes for like seasonal items, like we have a pumpkin muffin and stuff like that. But the thing I've noticed between working in Miami and like working here, like I used to work up here, but I quit because they were just like bad management, like really bad. But what's it called? We had like 2 different things going because I was going back and forth working. Like it went from like a break where I went down there to work and then coming back up here. And down there we would do a Cuban flatbread, and like it was really big seller like down there in Miami. But up here we never had it, and instead they had like a smoked sausage up here at the time.
I mean, that's kind of common sense.
I'm just saying, like, they did that pretty well. I just didn't know.
It's area specific, and I know, like, in the South, at some Hardee's, they sold grits. Okay? They never sold them up in Ohio and Illinois and up in that area. Because it's once again, designed for your local market, and that's the advantage of the franchisee. You think a manager's going to come up with that and try to do all that innovative stuff? Nope. But that local manager, hey, Cuban flatbread, or here, smoked Bradley sausage or something, you market to the local community. And that goes back to me as one of the kind of disadvantages of the franchise. You've got to allow people to be flexible. If you make, and that's the biggest fight I ever had with Hardee's, was letting me do little stuff, and it was little stuff, and I don't think it was going to hurt the brand, but they said, no, you can't do it because the company doesn't do it, so we want you to be consistent with the company.
Did you have a rule for the little baby high chair?
What do you mean a rule?
For Dunkin' Donuts, they only want us to have 2 of those high chairs in a restaurant at once, but like where we were, for some reason, a bunch of kids, like women were always having babies. And so we had like 6
It's a natural phenomenon.
Yeah, we had like 6 of those high chairs, and we came to a ROR, and like they docked us like 4. We got like a 96. They took 2 points off. The curves were too high for like people to twist their ankle or something like that. And then another 2 points were too many baby chairs.
I mean, we had 2 or 3 in there, but it was not by rule or anything. That was just in experience over the time. That is what they suggested how many you had. So, and it was never really a big issue. My bigger issues with them were over what products I could serve and what products I couldn't serve. I wanted to do some things that weren't on the actual approved menu, and they had a real problem with it. But it was stuff that really I felt like hurt me in my local community. The big thing was pancakes. Now, is that an operational nightmare, pancakes? No. You know how you do pancakes in fast food? You microwave them. They're frozen. Okay, so Hardee's did away with pancakes. Well, I've got a McDonald's across the street that sells pancakes. So people come in Saturday morning breakfast, somebody wants pancakes, they may go to McDonald's because they can get biscuits over there and they can get pancakes. So I used to sell pancakes. Hardee's would come in, see my little sign, and go, you can't do that. I go, okay, I take it down, they'd leave, I put it back up. And I had to buy them from the grocery store or Sam's. My margin wasn't very good, but it was important to me to have them available because somebody else offered it, and I felt like it was losing business, and it didn't hurt the operation. How hard is it to throw a frozen pancake in the microwave for 45 seconds? I mean, and yet I fought them the whole time I was there. Every time they come down, they make me take it down, and I just put it right back up.
But they still let you buy the cases of the pancake mix, or how are you getting them?
No mix. I bought them at the grocery store.
But I mean, like,
Sam's.
they didn't go through like your Hardee's DCP or whatever it's called for Hardee's.
Once again, they don't want to. The last thing they want to do is shut me down because I was paying them a very, very nice check. I had a very, very profitable restaurant. Did very good sales. So they're not going to shut me down over selling pancakes. But the guy that came down, his job was to tell me that I couldn't do pancakes.
I didn't think they'd shut you down. It's just that for like Dunkin' Donuts, they could let you buy like the section, like if they're doing something in California, you could buy that product and have it like go through DCP.
Well, this was
Hardee's had the same thing.
This was not even an approved product. I just did it on my own and was not worried about them shutting me down. And I'm not encouraging that kind of behavior. No, I'm not, but I'm just saying I had more of a stake, and that goes back to once again, one of the big disadvantages of the franchise. They're looking after the whole community. I'm looking after my particular little segment, and sometimes there's a disagreement, but I should know my local market better than they do, and I will tell you, I did know it better than they did, so I just tended to do that, and I know other people other franchisees that kind of did that too. Had a guy up in Harrison, Arkansas that was kind of, you guys ever heard of Branson, Missouri? It's like a big, it's like Nashville shows, and they went up to this small place in Missouri, and Kenny Rogers and some of the people opened big places up there, so it's a huge vacation place, and Highway 65 Arkansas has got really horrible roads, but there's one major highway that runs north, and so the guys up in Harrison put up parties up there, very successful, was on the road on the way to Branson, and they put like little rack in there with maps and stuff to Branson shows. You guys seen that? Hardee's kept telling them to take it out. How does that hurt? And so the guy would do it. He'd take it out, and they'd leave, and he'd put it back up. Okay. All right, so kind of summarizing, 3 factors. You've got to have a valuable system. It's got to be transferable. You've got to have a lot of people that would have the money, educational background, and be able to train them rather easily. Failure among any one of those can doom the franchise. Look at this statistic. 72% of all new franchising systems cease franchising within 10 years. And if I had to guess on why that was, I would say they were not established enough as a company component before they started franchising. You need very good stability, and I like the Firehouse model. They had one market, 30 stores, ton of revenue being generated before they ever started selling out to somebody else.
I used to look at a restaurant. How often did they come and check you guys? Because it wasn't a franchise like that. It was like a pretty big restaurant. But we would know when they were coming in at least probably like a couple days to a week in advance. So we would just kind of fix everything and clean everything up.
Well, we kind of had probably I got checked once every 3 months, and it was kind of alternating. Sometimes he would call me and tell me he's coming, other times he would just pop in. And I think that if I were going to set up a franchise, that is what I would do. What's the value of telling somebody you're coming? Yeah. What happens if you tell somebody you're coming and you go in there and things aren't good? You know you've got a real problem. Okay? But if you just pop in, that's more of a really snapshot of what it's going to be like all the time if you're not there. So we have, like with teachers and at my other school, the department chairman used to have to come in and review teachers. Well, he had to tell us he was coming because he didn't want to come in on exam day. He wants to see us lecture. And he had instances before, and I knew it happened, where he told teachers he was coming and they were unprepared for class that day and didn't know the lesson. Now, that's when you know you've got a problem. If you announce, but I also think that popping in is a good idea too, because that's going to give you more of a feel for what are they doing when we're not here. But I also had one other problem with that. It just seemed like the guy would show up on a day that, what's a normal day? But 2 people call in sick, which I had a lot of single moms and parents working for me. Kid gets sick, all of a sudden they call and go, hey, got to go pick up kid at school, I can't make it in today. And it seemed like that guy would show up on one of those days and think I was an idiot and couldn't run a business. But I assure you that was not the norm. That's why I like frequent visits. I think that gives you more of a feel for, if you just show up one time in 6 months and you're there for 2 hours, that's going to be your perception of what that place is like every day. And I would pretty much contend that that's probably not accurate. So if you go there 4 or 5 times, you're going to get a feel for kind of what's going on. I used to have fun with my guy because, like, he used to time. They have one of the things on his checklist was what's your average wait time at the window. Right? When the car gets there, how long does it take it to leave? And so I used to ask him, I said, well, how do you consider, figure my wait time when 4 cars leave at the same time and 3 I'll never make it to the window? And he didn't really have a formula for that. So if he's just counting the cars at the window, then I would have a wait time. If he actually counted cars that never made it to the window, I probably had a negative wait time. So, but I never minded them coming. I understood the value of protecting the brand.